Hi, I'm Tony from Symbolic Life. So you want to know about the symbolic meaning of the checkered design in churches. To better understand this design, let's break it into 4 different elements. The number 1 is the reason. What is the overall reason behind architectural and design decisions in churches? Number 2 is the placement of the design. Why is it that you don't see this design in the ceiling or in the walls of the church, but always on the floor? Number 3 is the shape, the square. Why did the builders choose a square from all the possible design options that they have available? And finally, number 4, we look at the 2 colors, black and white. Why are there specifically 2 colors, and why are they black and white? Once we have gone through all these 4 elements, you will have a solid understanding of the symbolic meaning of the checkered black and white design in churches. When churches were built in the ancient times, and especially during the medieval period, they were built to transmit a cosmic structure. This means that the church architecture and the design was to communicate how the world works and how it lays itself out. To put it very shortly, the world works as a movement between uniting principle above and multiplicity expressing that principle below. In other words, it is a movement between one and the many and back to one. And this movement is based on self-sacrifice. Keeping these 2 things in mind, the movement and the self-sacrifice, we now look at some examples from church architecture and design that highlight these 2 things. The churches were typically built in a cruciform shape. There was a vertical line and a horizontal line creating a cross inside the church. This refers obviously to Jesus' sacrificial death on the cross. Churches had 3 distinguished areas. The area closest to the entrance was called narthex, and it was reserved for the visitors. The largest area in the middle was for the congregation, and it was called nave. And the third area was called the sanctuary, and it was reserved for the clergy and the altar. The altar being the most important place in the whole building. And that's where the sacrifice of the Mass is celebrated. The churches were almost always built so that the entrance was in the west side of the building, so that the congregation would walk toward and face toward east in anticipation of Jesus' second coming. And this highlights the movement as well, when the congregation comes from outside to the unity, to the uniting principle in the altar, and then goes away and back again next week and outside again. So there's a movement from the many to the one, and from the one to the many. Significant emphasis was placed on the vertical aspects as well. There was a round dome over the altar representing the heaven, the altar representing the meeting point of heaven and earth, and underneath the altar was the floor representing the earth, which takes us nicely to the second element on the list, the placement of the design. You will never see this design in the ceiling, which represents the heaven, or on the walls, which sometimes represent the body of the multiplicity representing the one unity above. It is always placed on the floor, because the floor represents the earth. The square shape is not accidental either. The Bible tells us that the earth has 4 corners. This doesn't literally mean that the earth has 4 corners. It's speaking about a metaphysical truth. A square or a cube can be seen something as man-made. Think about the tabernacle, the temple, church, city. Even Noah's Ark in some old icons is depicted as this rectangular container. And the New Jerusalem in the end of time is a cube. All these can be seen as something man-made versus a spherical, natural God created things like the sun and the moon. The square can be seen also as manifestation and extension of the one above in the world. We can see this, for example, in human beings. The round head above is the principle, and we have 4 limbs as an extension for the head. The limbs works, the works of the hands and feet are the manifestation of that what the mind and the head wants to show in the world. This is also seen in the pendentives of the dome, which support the dome above. So the square is also a stabilizer, a support for the one above. And usually in these pendentives are the 4 Gospels, representing the revelation of Jesus Christ and the extension of the Gospel's good news in the world. Now that we have looked into the shape of the design, we can move on to the 2 colors, black and white. When God created the creation in the beginning, he divided it into heaven and earth. Heaven was created, quote unquote, complete, but the earth was formless, dark and void. God didn't mean the earth to remain dark and void. It was to imitate that which is in heaven. The heaven is a place for abstract things, things that are up there, unseen, things that don't have concrete physical existence. It is associated with principle, unity, and light. And in this checkered design, the color white is representing the heaven. The black color is associated with things like fragmentation, chaos, unpredictability. Let's go back to the Genesis account. On the 3rd creation day, dry land and vegetation emerge from the chaotic waters. So concrete things and life emerge from the chaos. This is described in the Proverbs 8:29. And this verse will also help us to understand why the black color is also in a form of a square. When the dry land emerges from the chaotic waters, God is setting a boundary for it. He is also setting boundary for the waters, and they can't step over that boundary to the dry land. So now this square is a judge. It is representing judgment. And we can see this in everything in the world. So for example, cars. Cars have an ideal in the above, which is then manifested in all the cars in the world. That ideal in heaven is manifested in all the cars in the world. Motorbike is not the car. It is judged by the ideal of a car in heaven and ruled out from the category of cars. So all the cars in the world are in this white square, and the motorbike is in the black square. It is being ruled out, judged out from the category of cars. So the earth has this duality in it. It has the chaos and fragmentation and meaninglessness that is depicted by the black color when it is not united under one uniting principle. But it has the potential, the earth has the potential to represent the heaven as well when it is united under a uniting principle. And that's why the builders placed this checkered design not on the walls, not in the ceiling of the church, but on the floor, that it would tell us about this dual aspect of our reality. Thank you for watching. And by the way, even though we talked about the square being representing a judgment, that you either belong on the white or the black square, there is always in human-made systems a place for the fringe, the margin. And in church buildings, this is represented by the gargoyles. I made a video about that. You should check it out here.